our work right now on the planet is to bring honoring and sanctity to the invisible just as much as the visible. The invisible results are things like feeling good, things like feeling connected, things like our health, our well-being, a feeling of joy, pleasure.
Embodiment can't be faked. Once you're in an open state where you actually can see through a clear lens, you're not clouded by fear, you're not clouded by the amygdala, you're not clouded by society's news and all the fear-based stuff, and you're just with you. Then you get to decide where you think we actually are.
It is possible to navigate pain with grace.
Energy is information. We're here to experience the full spectrum.
That worthiness is hard for you. There's nothing wrong with you. It is a muscle that we kind of have to learn how to access. You are not disempowered, and you have power in every area of your life all the time.
I believe that chronic illness is an opportunity for us to heal.
Health, it's a choice. Listening to your body if you so choose.
My prayer for the world would be that they would know the infinite love of God.
Aloha and welcome to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast with your host, Jen Mons. Join me each week for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around awakening to your soul purpose through 5-element well-being. Thank you so much for joining in. Aloha and welcome back to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast. Thank you so much again for joining me again this week. So, a few weeks ago, I released the podcast episode, Navigating the Seasons of Life. And I received a message on doing an episode on navigating the seasons of your business as an entrepreneur. So, that is what we are going to create space for today. I really appreciate that request. And you know, I'm somebody who teaches other women to build a business around their life to thrive and prosper in both life and business. And an embodied approach to that is to thrive in your life first, which will create the space for your business to thrive. If you listen to my episode with Janet, the Prosperous Woman, we talked about how, in so many of my episodes, we've talked about how your inner world create your outer results. And so there's no shortcut around this. It's not that we have to be stuck in this addiction to in self-improvement. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's about knowing when it's time to invest the time and the intention and the energy, and knowing when it's time to integrate, because those are two different times. Even when I lead retreats or when I teach other women to lead retreats, we talk a lot about the importance of the experience and then the integration, both before and after, because that is part of the cycle. It's part of integration is a very important piece of navigating expansions and contractions in any relationship, any experience in your life and in your business. And being in the flow of the cycles of life and business, and knowing when things turn to that feeling of a push or a force or a hustle, means that you're likely out of alignment, is just a really great place to create a new path and to create new habits. And it sounds probably easier than it is for some of us. It's really just a choice. It's a choice of undoing old belief patterns and creating new pathways. And it's really wonderful to have support in the process. In the last episode, Navigating Your Life Cycles, I shared the 13 Moons Journal, it's a guide to help you create space for cyclical planning. And it can be used for both life and business. And so I'm going to share a couple of the ways that I have created cyclical planning in my business, and I've allowed it to change. And I'll share with you a couple of ways that I have changed and grown and expanded. So this is for you if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a passion project on the side that you're navigating, that you're creating to bring in extra financial abundance because it's fun for you. And you're going to love this episode because I really take what I know works in a world of structure. Now, as a reminder, I'm a former engineer, military academy graduate. Like, I lived in the box, I thrived in the structure, to integrating and finding that middle ground of that feminine flow, because both are important. You need to have the creativity and the passion, and also the aligned action and the structure. Most importantly, you need to be consistent. So whatever change it is that you want to make in your life or your business, but especially in your business, know that nothing is an overnight fix, and you will be given space to practice your consistency to see if this is actually what you really want. I haven't seen it happen any other way. I mean, sometimes we get lucky and we get this like super amazing, I don't know, miracle thing that happens overnight. Yes, those things do happen. But in general, consistency and commitment are always going to be important in whatever change you want to create, which of course is also why coaches are super amazing. Having somebody to have your back and have your support. I don't know that there actually is anyone better than a coach. Friends are super awesome too, but we can't put that expectation really on them because then it changes the friendship. It changes a partnership and a marriage if it's, if you're putting too much on your partner. So this is where coaches can be really great. So of course, I'm going to start with daily journaling. That's why I have published 2 journals, the 13 Moons and also the 90-Day Prosperity. Because no matter where you are in life or where you're going, this intention and commitment to reflect on where you are and where you want to go. Now, my journals are prompted, so they help take you on a path forward. They help you reflect some of the experiences that have created your current behaviors and beliefs, but they also help you to dig deeper into the life, your truth, like where you want to live, or how you want to live, I should say. So a daily practice is always going to be wonderful, and you're not going to get it right every day, and you're going to fall off sometimes, and that's okay. Everyone does. Maybe not everyone does, but I'm a person who is committed to this path, and I fall off, so I can say that for sure. And my intention is always to get right back on and to allow the tools to be there when I need them. Journaling is one of them. It's a nice tool because there's not a lot of expectation or time or commitment, or it's really just kind of free writing. Of course, meditation, movement, prayer, all of those things are wonderful tools as well. So in the 13 Moons Journal, I share with you the cyclical practices that I've used in my business and in my life. And I've done these with my kids. And I guess I cannot remember a time where I didn't do some sort of, I guess many people would call a vision board at the beginning of every year. I cannot even remember a time where I didn't do that. I mean, even from being really young, I would just I guess beginning of the year, I think most people would call it a New Year's resolution, but I would always just get clear on like what did last year look like and what is my goal for this year. That's probably how it started as a teenager. And then that just evolved more into about 10 years ago, starting to write a letter at the end of every year to myself. And then at the end of every year, I read the letter from the previous year and I write a new one. So not only do I do a personal letter, the personal letter includes changes, goals, challenges, celebrations in both my personal life and my business life. And then in my business, at the beginning of every year, I review the plan for the previous year. And a lot of times I'll go back and I'll even look back. Right now, I probably still go back to about 2018, 2019. Although I've done these New Year plans every year since 2014, I'm just in a really different place from 2014. The first part of my coaching career from 2009 to 2017 was spent mostly in health and fitness, anything from teaching fitness and nutrition and detoxing to integrating a functional medicine approach in my health coaching to using herbs to detox. And that was really like the first cycle, which was about a little over 7 years. And I have found that in my business, I've had pretty consistent 7-year cycles. The second season in the big picture in my business was transitioning a little bit from health coaching into life coaching, which was from 2017 to about 2020 when I started to train life coaches. And that was a little bit of an accelerated path. It was a little out of alignment. It was a business partnership that was a little bit out of alignment, but this still continued the life coaching aspect, and through different modalities such as teaching yoga, doing breath work. I started retreats in 2014, started leading retreats, and also integrating energy work. And then around 2022, I think a year after the Prosperity Course came out, that began to shift into realizing that from the health to the life came supporting women in their businesses. I started to attract more entrepreneurs, still high performing women, like a certain type of woman ready to let go of the hustle, but really ready to welcome in more prosperity. So in the big picture, you can see the 7-year cycles in my business, and what I'm currently in right now is still supporting. I've kind of blended all that together where I now support wellness leaders to thrive in their life and business. And one of the tools that I do is sharing my wisdom in creating prosperous retreats. So we do a lot of the money mindset work. I have the prosperous retreat method. I bring in my expertise of 10 years of hosting retreats, and I help women to understand their facilitator leadership archetype, navigate her shadows. So you can see how the wellness and the life coaching is all blended together into the service of helping women to create these retreat experiences. And it's the way that I have most financially thrived in my business in the last probably 5 years, even through COVID. So when you look at the year in my business, I still continue to write the letter. I still map out the year. I map out the goals for the year, and I do it by quarter. And I also do a financial map. So there's the whole year, like what are my goals for, let's just say, and I'm going to go through this again probably at the end of the year. But we just crossed over the summer solstice. And so we are in the second half of the year. And so it's a good time to look at what were my goals for the first 2 quarters and how did I meet them, or where are the gaps? And do I need to allow myself to shift in my business based on my life experiences? And, what do I want that shift to be? Sometimes I notice that we have goals and we stick to those, and then it just takes a really long time to get somewhere because it's out of alignment. We end up being exhausted. And I have found that just really doesn't work. For example, for me, very early in 2024, I lost my dad. And that is, I lost my brother-in-law in 2016, and that was really hard, but there's nobody like losing your parent for the first time. I've navigated a lot of grief and losses through friendships, but your dad is just really, really, really different. It was really hard. We had a great relationship. He's still with me. And I just gave myself the space and the permission to, you just never know where you're going to be or how you're going to show up in that. But I just gave myself permission to just to be in that and to experience that however it needed to be experienced. And so I created more space in my calendar. I wasn't taking any new discovery calls for potential private clients. I didn't want to work with anybody new when I was in that space, and that was okay. And having done this for so many years, what you get to do is you create your intentions for the year. So it's kind of like you map out maybe 3 big goals for the year, but also your intention of your way of being in your business. And you create your life goals and priorities first, and you make sure that your business goals and your life goals align with your core values. So you have to know what your values are. If you're saying that you have a goal or a dream in your life or a business that is not related to one of your values, like some people will say, me for example, adventure, freedom, fun has always been in some way a value of mine, and so that's why I started creating retreats. It's why I travel a lot. And some people will say that because they like the idea of it, but then they don't, when they're in it, they don't actually, it's not actually for them. Or some people might say that they really value or want to make more money, but then they're not really willing to do the work around it. They're not willing to explore their relationship with money. Or someone might say health is a value, but they're not investing in fitness or healthy foods. So really just being clear that what your actual values are without judgment, they're aligned with your business and life goals. And then aside from that, also creating your financial map. And so you take those goals and intentions. So your intention is your way of being and showing up in your business. And so, for example, for me, 2024 was about speaking and visibility. And it's something that I've had on my goals list. It's something I've journaled about for like 10 years. And it just had to be the right time. It just had to come at the right time. And in the first 4 months of this year, I had 3 speaking opportunities at events that were very aligned with me, Women's Wellness Fest and She is Fierce, with 2 opportunities for that, where I got to present and speak and also embody wellness and speak about well-being and leadership, embodied leadership. And so that was my overall intention for the year, was to increase visibility and connect. And the reason it was important is because I'm traveling so much in my personal life, because I've created the travel and time and freedom to do that, that I realized now is the time more than ever for me to be more visible in person. And I've done it through my retreats, but those retreats have only been available to the people who are willing to come to the retreats. So I knew I needed to grow outside of my circle and just put my energy more than just virtual through my voice in the podcast and share space with people, and to do that through speaking, which I plan to continue expanding and growing on in different ways, which is different than facilitating and teaching, which I've been doing for a very long time through retreats, through corporate workshops, through personal workshops. Speaking is very different, which is something that I had to learn, is what kind of speaker do you want to be? So when I teach my retreat, Prosperous Retreat Roadmap, we reveal the facilitator archetype, the leadership archetype that we embody. Because when you understand that the type of leader or speaker or whatever it is that you want to do, what the type that you naturally are, it helps you to embrace the gift in it and just navigate the challenges and the shadows when they come up. So having that intention, having the goals that are going to get you there, and then creating the financial roadmap piece, which may or may not be connected to your personal goals. So there should be some component which is, so for example, when you go to speak, you want to have something, for me, I wanted to have something to share, opportunities for women to work with me. I brought my journals and books for people to purchase, shared about the retreats, had a couple of new connections, new clients, and so making sure that that piece aligns with your financial roadmap. And creating and reviewing your financial roadmap either every month, I would say it depends. Like right now, I do it about every month. If I was probably consistently home more often, now this is just the season of life that I'm in, I'd probably do it every week. Have a monthly review with your team, if you have a team. At least, if not weekly, a monthly review with your team, your assistants that support you. I have 4 different people that support me. I have a podcast producer, a social media manager, and then I have 2 people who help with my website and some copy sometimes. They're temporary, but consistently I have podcast and social media support, because those are things that I don't want to do them. It's really easy. It's all my voice, it's all my words based on my podcast, and then it's just basically transcribed into different types of media so it can be repurposed, which creates more time and space for me. So weekly, well, let's break it down starting from the year. So we're going to just do the big one first. You're going to do the annual letter to yourself. You're going to write your annual plan, and you'll start with the big picture, and then you're going to break it down by quarters. I recommend that you do 1 quarter at a time, but maybe on your annual plan, you'll write down like quarter 3, quarter 4, which is really the season of like fall or winter, that these are the things you want to do. Now, when I'm in my business, like, know what your energy cycles are, know what your cycle of life is. Consistently every year for the past 12 years, I know that there are months where I make a lot more money, and it's the nature of the type of work that I do, and that is January, February, especially March and April and May, but also September, October, November. If you're in personal development or growth or health and wellness, if you're doing retreats, these are the best months to do them. Nobody really wants to invest in anything like that from about the first week of November through until after Christmas. And then seasonally, the summertime is also not a time to do it, because a lot of us have kids that are out of school or we're traveling for vacations. And so really just knowing what does your family, your life cycle look like? Where is your energy? And then based on that, creating your goals each season. So when I launch a new course or I do a group program, I only do 1 group program a year at the moment because I'm traveling so much. I used to do 2 to 3 group programs a year. It would be every February or March, and then every, say, September. When I do retreats, it's pretty much always been March or April, and then September, October, maybe the first week in November, because those are high retreat seasons, and those are cyclically. When you talk about energy, it's, those are the equinoxes. So it's spring is a new beginning and fall is a time of gathering. So it's aligned with the type of work that I do and that I offer. So making sure that your offers align with the energy of the collective really is what I'm saying. Your personal energy, your life energy, and then the energy of the collective is super important. People think that you need to create something to start January 1st, and that doesn't really work for a lot of people. It works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody, and most importantly, does it work for you? So you do the annual map, and then you break it down by quarters. You take a version of the big plan for the year, and you do the same thing for each quarter. You write down the 3 goals, you reflected on what you did, why or why not, because maybe it's not a priority anymore. And then you also, what was your financial goal? How did you fall short? And then how can you meet that? Do you need to create more workshops or events or ways to connect with people? Or do you need to just reach out to some people that are in your current circle and share with them what you have that is new and exciting, because they may not know. And so you'll do that financial map for the year, financial map for the quarter, and measure the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And I'm kind of old school. There's a couple of tools that I use that I'll share with you. One of them is the Trello board, which I love for creating projects. I use it to communicate with my team on what the different projects are. And so some of the boards I have, for example, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I have one for retreats. I have 4 programs, so I have one for each program. And, right now, one of them is inactive. So I have one for prosperity, I have one for business alchemy, and I have one for 5-element wealth, which is currently inactive. It's only available for private clients, also the retreat facilitator training. And I have a team meeting board, I have a podcast board, I have a social media board. And so for the assistants that help me, I have action steps with what works, and we're able to check and communicate, because there could be things that have been on there. I'll look back at the end of the year and I'll be like, well, if we didn't do this, why didn't we do this? Maybe it's no longer a priority. But you can put tasks on there and you can assign tasks to your team members, which is really great. Another tool I love is Loom, which is video. And it's really just to help if you need to train somebody on your team, or if you want to send a message to somebody, you can use it, which is just more personal. When you're talking to somebody, anybody who's worked with me knows that it's, connect people who sign up to work with other coaches, or people do that because they know, trust, and like them. And so a way to do that is let them hear your voice. Let them get to know you as a person, not just through your website or social media, but the real person underneath. So the Trello boards, as far as a podcast goes, I've had one for 5.5 years. I personally use GarageBand. I don't have a fancy setup. I do have a podcast producer. My intention is not to bring in revenue through my podcast. It's really just to build trust and connect my audience and to share. So I'm not, other than my producer, not investing in having a big studio, or, I do have a soundproof room. But you can do a lot of these things with, pretty basic equipment. My course library and email and payment system I use that I love is Simplero. We can share that link with you as well. Pretty sure I'm an affiliate of them. And I love to use that tool. It helps keep everything organized. It's all in one platform. So it's the payment, the courses, and the contacts for email, instead of having, 3 or 4 different systems, which if you've been an online coach for as long as I have, there used to be multiple different systems that we'd have to integrate. And so I personally love simplifying and having all in one. And just having a form of communication, whether it's Voxer, Signal, WhatsApp. I personally love to use Signal because it's more encrypted. I did use Voxer for a while, and then just using WhatsApp if you have some international clients, which I do also have that. So having some sort of communication tool is also important. And then creating that monthly or weekly team meeting with your support system. And if you don't have a team yet, then putting that space and time in your personal calendar for a personal CEO meeting, where every week, I did this for many, many years, and it's shifted for me a little bit right now, but every week you have your personal CEO meeting and you review what worked last week, what didn't, how close are you to your goal, and what do you need to do to get there. And are the goals that you're setting weekly, which, by the way, be very mindful not to over set goals, because that'll get discouraging. That's something that I've always had to work through. I get really excited. I'm like, I want to do this, this, and this. And really, if you can accomplish one thing a week, that's a good thing. One thing a day, super amazing. So keep your goals simple. Keep them, it's SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And remember that method when you're creating goals. And then, is your daily or weekly goal going to help you meet your quarterly goal? And is your quarterly goal going to help you meet your annual goal? And is it aligned with your values? Aside from how you're going to build your business. There's the financial roadmap piece. And then the third map piece that I have is a connection map. Because for me, everything that I do is built off connection and trust. I've never paid a dime for marketing on social media to this day. I'm not saying that I wouldn't, but to this point in time, I haven't had to because everything is word of mouth. I value the relationships and the women that I get to serve and support. Some of them, many of them, either refer people to me or come back in a couple years for something new that I've created, or the relationship continues to evolve and grow as we each individually do, and it's really fun to see who comes back into the space. And so I have sort of like the goal mapping, the financial map, and then also the visibility and connection map, which for me is including the speaking component. It includes the podcast. It includes just, sending messages to people, reaching out, seeing how they're doing, letting them know what I'm sharing and what I'm up to, just in case, like, hey, they didn't know I'm hosting this retreat in wherever, Costa Rica or Italy, and it happens to be the right time for them. Most people are pretty busy, and it's really easy for them to miss things. And so every time, like, people are appreciative that I'm sharing something with them, even if it's not the right time for them, just because it's probably something they didn't know about. So breaking it down from year to quarter to month to week, those are the 4 weeks that I do it, and then to your daily practice. And eventually maybe getting to a place where you give yourself a day or two off so that you can have more space. If one other tool that I love to use is time blocking. When I first started, I would kind of color code my calendar, and this is something else I still love to do. I'm just a very visual person. But making sure that you have time for creative time and space, and also connection time. So networking and connection. And so for me, I've always had Thursdays as my creative days. So it's the days where I record podcast or I'm creating or working on something new. And sometimes you'll notice that you just don't feel like being creative on a Thursday, and that's okay. But if the intention is there to at least have that, then you can kind of pencil it in and write it as it comes and keep that intention. And if you don't feel creative that day, well, that's okay too. You just have more spaciousness to create space for creativity to flow through when it's ready. So it's important to schedule. I find that most women, when they're starting out in their business, or even if they've been in their business for a while, tend to not schedule enough time for this. Schedule your personal time, schedule your creative time, and then schedule what I call your in office time. So whether you're doing business tasks or running your team or with your clients in session, which is probably going to be a lot less time than you realize. Because as a business owner, there's a lot of different areas that need to come in place in order for you to run your business. And a lot of it, you're not technically really being paid for. It's part of being a business owner. Until you learn to pay yourself for them, which I highly recommend. What I'm saying is that your time in session with clients who are paying you is probably not going to be that much time if you want to have a business that continues to expand and grow. And so this is where we get into, we get out of charging for your time and versus inviting clients to step into the space of charging for the transformation that they're going to get, which is high value. It's not something you can really put a price on. It's not something that you can really decide how much time it's going to take, because it's different for everyone. And inviting your clients into that growth mindset space is actually really awesome, because when, like, what I have witnessed, and I made that shift in 2017 of going from hourly to 6-month packages, giving your clients an opportunity to invest in themselves is going to immediately shift things for them, shift their energy. Just today, I received a text message from a woman who recently stepped into a private coaching package with me, and she received this happened, you've heard me say this before, she received all of the financial abundance to make the payment in full. Like, as soon as she said yes, it just happened. And through her work, and it's just wonderful when that happens. And it feels really good to invest in yourself. It feels good to do that because it's saying, I'm worth this. And so shifting into that energy. So I've covered the annual things to do. Now, this doesn't include any specific tasks for the business. Those you would put on your annual planning, such as your taxes, when you have to do your filing for your corporation and things like that. You're going to want to put those probably in your financial roadmap and, get somebody to support you in that if you don't have that already. But there's a lot of tools out there that you can grab from financial planners that will help you decide like what is important to do quarterly and annual. For example, some things I put on my financial checklist from my accountant is that in January, there's certain forms to fill out, 1099s or W-2s, all of your tax documents, and it's really when you want to be gathering your taxes together. Daily or weekly or monthly, you want to, because when we talk about prosperity, we talk about being intentional with your money. You want to check your bank account activity. You want to check the money going in, the money going out. Check the purchases. It's just a really good idea to double check things and to know where are you spending your business expenses and even your personal expenses. Where is your money going? And just keeping a good eye on that because you might be making payments that you don't even know about. You want to just make sure that all your invoices have been sent out and are complete and that they're paid if you have any payments to make. And monthly, some things you can do for your business is you can write a little checklist to back up your software, check your bank accounts, make sure your payroll for your assistants or contractors is, everything is paid. Review your profit and loss statement through whatever tool that you use. For me, it's QuickBooks. And I double check myself with an Excel sheet because I still love Excel. Some of you might use YNAB, but whatever your tools are to just reconcile. And you can do this for both your personal and your business expenses. Review your statement of cash flow. So just really being clear on what is your profit and cash flow available, like what do you have available to invest in something. So for a business owner, let's just say you want to redo your website, which, some people think it's a good investment. Some people think it's kind of old school. Nobody looks anymore, but it can cost, it can be anywhere from, I guess, probably about $10,000 to maybe $40,000 to redo your website. And so do you have that available, or what can you create if you have something you want to invest in to make sure that happens? And you might need to move money around and just checking kind of where your money is at the end of every month. And at the end of the year, of course, in your financial map, you'll want to not only review your year, but create a financial map and a budget for the upcoming year. Look at what worked, what didn't work, and just be in touch with your CPA for any questions or issues that you might have. Don't wait until the last minute. Don't wait until April 14th. Your CPA does not like that. But really taking the time and the attention to daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually, finding that flow for you. And I like to use graphs. I'm a very visual person. I have a graph of my business expenses, the revenue, the expense, and the profit for each year. I've broken down the different programs and I've looked at which program, which offerings have brought me the most profit. For me, it's always been retreats, which is also a huge reason why I wanted to teach what I knew about retreats to be true, because I see all kinds of women doing retreats and barely breaking even. And if they just want the experience, that's okay. But they're charging $200 or a couple $100 or maybe $1,000 for a yoga retreat for 5 days. And that works for some people, but if you want to turn it into a profitable business, that is what I show people to do. I like to create graphs. If you're a visual person, you can just, I think it's numbers. It's part of Excel. You just put it in there, it creates a graph, and you can see, it's like any podcast episode I do. I can see what the listeners like to listen to. And then you can take that data and based on that, decide that maybe there's something you want to speak more about. So, you can have fun with it. Like, you get to run your business any way that you want. The more consistent you are and the more tools that you can use that help you to create consistency, create some space to allow yourself to be supported with an assistant could be life-changing. I also have a side hustle through VA Hire Connect where I help people to, especially new business owners, to hire vetted virtual assistants at a lower cost, less than $10 an hour to help them get their business started. And so that's something else that I also actually don't have to do any work in that anymore because I have an assistant that runs that part of the business, but we help people to do that. Hiring help is amazing. Whether it's a coach, a virtual assistant, having somebody to help you get these tools in place will help you to run more efficiently. It will help you to stay intentional and just be in that season of wherever your business is. If you're noticing that you thought you were going to write a book this year and it's just not coming out, maybe it's just not the time to do it. If you thought this was going to be the year that I'm going to start retreats and you just don't know how to do it, well, let's connect on a call because I'm supporting many women to do that. Or is it just not the season in your personal life, in your business to do that? Sometimes we get ideas and they're either not actually ours or aligned with our truth, and so it just doesn't happen. And sometimes we get ideas and we don't act on them because we're afraid. So noticing, why things are not manifesting or coming, your vision isn't coming clear at this moment, is just creating that awareness without judgment would be super helpful. And that's where reflecting and reviewing every month that what will help you to close the gap, what is working, what is not working is super helpful. And I love to do that on every new moon. And it's can take 10 minutes or you can create an hour-long ceremony, which I did for many, many years. I would light candles and do the whole sage thing and meditate. And, sometimes I still do that. When you do that for a long time, the result, enjoy the process and the journey, you'll find that you start to embody it and things start to come quicker because it just becomes part of who you are. So what used to be an hour-long ceremony is now about a 20-minute intentional space created and is a lot more purposeful, clear, and aligned because, well, I've been doing it for 8 years. So you'll find that when you create these little habits, it no longer becomes work, but it becomes part of who you are. And just giving yourself permission to be where you are. Is this a year where you become more visible, or is this a year where you go inward and you create? And I've had many, many seasons. I've had super creative seasons. I've had collaborative seasons. I've had, health, life, business seasons. I've had speaking seasons. I've had writing seasons. And if you notice that you have a goal and it's feeling like a push or a force, maybe it's not the right time. But if you notice that there's something that you want to do and you keep hearing about it or you keep hearing people talk about it and you can feel it in your body, like this is what I want, then be really interested in that, in those people, in that mastermind, in that space. Find people who have the same values as you. Allow yourself to be supported. And don't miss the opportunity by not opening up to receive when it is in front of you. And the way that we navigate this is creating enough space where we're not too busy to miss the opportunities. And also being committed to our inner work to not allow fear to paralyze us or keep us in indecision or, stuck in procrastination. and just noticing without judgment where you are, and at least taking that first step to be curious about a possible connection or collaboration to move you forward when you start noticing the synchronicities, because it's a really fun place to be. And not every time, but almost every time, people, I have found in my experience when I'm working with people, it's totally in alignment. Like the abundance and the prosperity are just flowing at both ends, and it's really fun. I notice when I have to spend a little bit more time, if I'm willing to, which I don't anymore, this is also for you as coaches. If you notice that, like the easiest and most fun relationships and experiences I have are the ones who are just really easy. Like they know they're ready to work with you. They don't have to, you're not helping them through their inner work in the process. They're ready, they're willing and ready. Like that's when the results are more fun, and it's faster, and it's just a really fun co-creation for the two of you. So when you have those moments, embrace them, celebrate them, have gratitude for them. If somebody's thinking about working with you and it's, they're just kind of still stuck in that indecision and procrastination, if you're, we play a role in enabling that if we create the space for it. So don't overgive in that area. It's an opportunity for you to really step up as a coach and be a leader. Take that ownership and that leadership and just say either, hey, it sounds like you're not ready. This is just not a good fit for you right now, and that's okay. Or I noticed that this is a block for you. Are you willing to work through it right now and take that next step and say yes to invest? So to close this conversation today, navigating the cycles of your business, the underlying thread in all of that is being very aware of your personal energy, being very intentional in your energy, in your decisions, in your life and your business, and having the tools and the commitment and the consistency to check in and reflect whatever works for you daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. I would say at least weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. Daily, it just depends. I have a lot of clients who work only 2 or 3 days a week and have 6-figure businesses. So you might not need to check in daily, but maybe you do every 2 weeks. Check in with your team every month. I used to check in with my team every week. We're on very different time zones, so now we're every month. And just finding the rhythm that works for the cycle or the season that you are in your business. And most importantly, noticing that when you're really ready to say yes, things might come really quickly. So having that support system in that space ahead of time could be really helpful. I've had a couple of times throughout the last 15 years where as soon as I said yes, I was overwhelmed with clients and opportunities, and I often find that with my clients as well. That's part of what I help them navigate, is the clarity on, okay, what is aligned and what isn't. So just maintaining that, is this aligned with my values? Is this going to get me to my goals? Because when we really get into that flow of the yes and the receiving and the abundance and prosperity, the challenge then becomes the healthy discernment in what is aligned and what isn't, so that we can maintain clarity for the things that continue to support us. Because a lot of times we will receive an abundance of, let's just say, new clients that may not actually be aligned or maybe a better fit for someone else. And so just noticing that. So I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear what business are you creating? What's keeping you from moving forward? What I love about this is I always talk about living your truth, and entrepreneurship is some of the deepest personal spiritual growth we will ever do. It's not for everyone, but if it is for you, I get you. I got you. It's deep work. It's also can create a lot of freedom and joy. and it'll take you out of your comfort zone. It'll stretch you. And I'd love to hear what you're creating in the world, because I'd love to hear that. And if you are someone who is looking to add retreats to your business and you want to create a profit from retreats, and in terms of numbers, I'm talking create an extra 6 figures from retreats, maybe 2 to 3 retreats a year, then let's connect on the call. And right now, I'm currently only supporting women in this through a private coaching package. However, because I am supporting a number of women, I do occasionally host little group circles just for us. I have a mastermind for us, but it's only open to the women who are in the private coaching, just because of my current travel schedule, which is temporary for probably the next year. And then, of course, that will shift again. But I'd love to support you, and there's just so much opportunity in that. People are looking for retreats, and I'd love to help you embody your retreat leadership archetype. I'd love to help you map out ways to create a profit through strategy and marketing and legal and logistics. And I've got a lot of resources. I've done them for 10 years on companies to support you and also places to do them. And I also have some clients who are retreat designers, and so they help you to map out, or they help you to lead a retreat in locations that they are familiar with. And so lots of resources to tap into. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Aloha.
The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition.
Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining again each week on the Body and Soul Wisdom podcast. I am so deeply honored to share this space with you every week. I know that there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and our community is expanding and growing more with each new episode. I'd like to invite you to come on over to jenmons.com/tribe and receive some of the wonderful gifts that we have for you: a meditation bundle, energetic alignment, 5-element wealth, prosperity consciousness. We have a ton of different gifts available for you to enjoy. Now, we have one small favor to ask. In order for this podcast to get into the hearts and souls of like and light-minded people, we need your support. We would love your review, and would love it if you'd head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review or leave one on iTunes, so that we can continue to share the love beyond out into the world. Thank you so much again for joining in. We'll see you next week.